Purchasing a house to live in can be a great move for yourself. It will provide you and your family a great place to live and make memories, and to set down roots and become part of a loving, caring, nurturing community. But it's not a good investment. Owning a house that you live in may actually be a pretty bad investment, at least in terms of return on cash spent. In this video, I'm going to tell you why, and if you watch through till the end, I'm going to share with you what you can do instead. So, lovingly, tenderly, gently, caress that like button for the YouTube algorithm. And if you're looking for more videos that give you an honest look into personal finances, subscribe with post notifications turned on, and let's get started. Derek West here for Finance Squared, and you already know what it is. We love talking about all things personal finance, including investing and entrepreneurship. And an oft-discussed topic of personal finance is home ownership. I have a slightly different take than most people do on owning a home. Owning a home is fine if all you want to do is live in it and raise your family and invest in your community. But I don't think, in most cases, owning a home to live in is a great personal wealth investment. Now I say that, even though from an early age, we're all taught and we have drilled into our heads that investing in a house is a really great investment for you and how it is living the American dream and all of that. Maybe it is the American dream. I'll just say this, maybe we Americans need bigger goals. But I tend to disagree with the perspective that owning a house is a great personal investment. And I do so in a rather strong manner. Here's why. Home purchases can be considered bad debt in my book. Different people have different definitions of bad debt. A common one is a kind of debt that doesn't have a positive return on money spent. So for example, borrowing money from someone to purchase inventory for a product that you know is selling well. And that's an example of good debt. You know that you'll be making money from the money that you borrowed. In fact, you'll be making more money than what you borrowed. Depending on the interest rate, the margin can be pretty good. But borrowing money to pay for an expensive dinner on a credit card that you don't pay back the full balance on immediately is bad debt. You're gonna eat the dinner one time, and unless you have an Instagram following that'll be paying you good money to see you chow down, then you're not gonna be making any money off that experience. The exact same thing with taking out a loan to purchase a car, especially a new car. Even more especially, a new luxury car. The second you drive it off the lot, the car loses 20 to 30% in value, and you're underwater on your loan. That's money that's gonna go into the pocket of whomever lended it to you and to the dealership and out of your pocket, which is money that you could have invested in things like stocks and bonds, REITs, or even investing in real estate. But buying a home to live in most cases, is bad debt for similar reasons. Hold on. I hear you saying right now in the comments, don't houses increase in value and therefore borrowing money to own a house is typically a good idea in opposition to buying a car where the car loses value almost immediately? Let's talk about that. Homes certainly increase in value, and oftentimes quite substantially, but typically not as much as you think, particularly in areas of the country that are not hotspots or that are not growing as rapidly as other places, or are maybe even in a downward trend. Imagine you're an individual in, let's say, Ohio, who just lost a congressional seat, meaning people are leaving your state for other parts of the country, meaning there are less people competing for real estate where you live, meaning that the price of houses in your area are not likely to increase that substantially. It's not even the worst part. Oftentimes, when the value of the house increases, you still lose out in terms of the total that you paid to own the asset. Let me go over a brief illustration to explain what I mean. Now, I'm going to use simple numbers here to keep the math from going too crazy, so before you put something in the comments and say, Derek, those numbers aren't realistic at all, dude. I know. I'm trying to keep the numbers really simple so people don't click out after being scared away by all the crazy math. But let's say you buy a house for $100,000 and the house doubles in value to $200,000. You put down $20,000 and borrow $80,000 to purchase for a 30-year loan borrowed at 4% interest rate. According to the rule of 72, after about 18 years, the amount of money that you will paid will have doubled. So $160K total. So immediately you think to yourself, see, that's a $40,000 profit. Wait a second, hold on there. Did you factor in the following costs? Insurance and property taxes? Think of it, $1,000 a year in property taxes, $1,000 a year in insurance. Over 30 years, that's $60,000. With those two things alone, you're already underwater with the total that you paid. Then there is maintenance and upkeep. Let's imagine you do the bare minimum, $500 a year for 30 years. That's another $15,000. So that's $160,000 plus $60,000 plus $15,000. And already you paid $235,000 for a $200,000 asset. So you're $35,000 in the hole. Let's not even get into real estate fees, HOA dues, and all the rest of it. So in that particular case, even if the value of your house doubles, you lose money. There are instances where houses more than double. But now you're talking about both speculation and inflation. Most prices today are way different than they were in 1970, but so are salaries and wages and the prices of goods and services. And that's because of everyone's favorite economic phenomenon, inflation. So a quick primer for you, Cheap money means expensive goods, and expensive money means cheap goods. Cheap money tends to circulate, thus keeping the economy going, which is why most economists love it. Expensive money tends to be held and not circulated, which is why a lot of economists think that the tight money policies of the 1930s was the reason why the Great Depression was as bad and as long as it was, and which is also why the price of Bitcoin keeps going up and up and up. So inflation may in fact be the reason why your house more than doubles in value, not necessarily because it's a great investment. If everything else is rising at roughly the same rate, you're only treading water at best. And homes that more than double, factoring in the price of inflation, are kind of rare. Sure, you'll hear stories about homes more than doubling in places like San Francisco, Dallas, and Houston, lots of places in Texas actually, Los Angeles, Las Vegas, and Miami. Again, that might not be the case for you if you're living in Ohio or West Virginia or Minnesota. Living in those hot spots is expensive in other ways as well. Oftentimes, the taxes and other costs in those places eat away the rest of your budget. So while you may have a nice salary, it's consumed by the high cost of living, including your housing expense, the price of food, etc. And because the cost of owning a house in those hot areas is so outrageous, purchasing a house in those places often leaves you house poor. In other words, the cost of your housing expense, the mortgage payments, the insurance, the property taxes, the HOA fees, all of that, it eats up most of your monthly budget, so you can barely afford to do anything else. Now, we're not all about the downside here on this channel. We'd like to talk about things that you can do instead. And keep in mind, I'm not saying that you should never buy a house at all. I'm not saying that you should never buy a house even if it's a bad investment. What I am saying is, don't necessarily consider it a good investment, but consider it for what it is. But what if you wanted to spend the money that you would have spent to buy a house, but to instead actually have a great investment? What would you do in that instance? Well, you could buy a home as an investment. Here's what I mean. Purchase a house and fix it up. Find the worst house in a good or up-and-coming neighborhood. Not so bad it needs like a complete redo, like you have to tear down the entire structure of the house and rebuild it, things like that. What I'm talking about is something that needs a little bit of sweat equity and or fixer money from you into it so that it can become a more attractive place to live. Think about a house that's starting to look a little bit dated, or maybe you can do some landscaping, or maybe fixing up a facade on the outside or some door panels or things like that, roofing, external brickwork, things of that nature. Internally, things like new kitchen cabinets, upgrading countertops, adding lighting fixtures, or upgrading faucets in the bathroom, upgrading the color scheme of the house, changing the floor plan, things that take a little bit of sweat equity and capital from you, but will upgrade the house in an appreciable way. And also make sure to look for houses in up and coming neighborhoods, not necessarily neighborhoods that are already established or neighborhoods that are on the bottom end of the economic ladder, but neighborhoods that are on the upswing, that are close to high-end shops or other desirable amenities. Once you've targeted that house, live in it for, let's say, 2 years, the entire time that you're living there. Fix it up, improving upon some of those things that we just identified and that we just talked about. And when you're done with that, now you have an asset that you can use to make some more moves. Those moves include renting it out or selling it again, or quote unquote flipping it. Once you fixed it up, rented it, or flipped it out, then you can do it all over again with a new house. Put a down payment on it, fix it up again, get it ready to rent out or flip, and keep doing that again and again and again until you can afford to start investing in an apartment or other larger cash flowing commercial properties. Another school of thought that a lot of YouTubers like to do, buy a duplex, triplex, or fourplex. Those type of homes are basically attached homes or mini apartments, and you can live in one of the units while the others are being rented out by you. Doing this oftentimes either defrays the cost of ownership or allows you to break even, and in some cases even make a profit off your living situation. There's also the option of not doing real estate at all. If you're not into houses and you don't want to do the work of researching good up-and-coming neighborhoods and finding a house that requires some work but not a ton of work, and then fixing it up and renting it out and flipping it and then maybe investing in more real estate, maybe that sort of thing isn't for you. Because let's be honest, real estate is a lot of work. It's the kind of investment with a lot of real physical labor involved. Even if you're not flipping a house but renting it out, you are still the landlord and you're responsible for fixing the problems that the tenant may run into in regards to the house. I'm talking about unclogging toilets, fixing the water heater. Maybe the tenant locked himself out of the apartment complex. Maybe there's a fire in the kitchen, something like that. If you don't have a management company, and those things eat into your housing profits, by the way, then that is a lot of manual labor on your part. But then again, that's true with a lot of worthwhile investments. All the same though, it can feel like you're just working harder and not smarter. So don't necessarily feel pressured to get into that game. There are other ways to spend your money to invest wisely as well. For example, buying or creating businesses. If you have $40,000 you were going to put towards a home purchase, why not put it towards the purchase of a business, or perhaps throwing fires under the flame of a side hustle you've been cultivating? Think of things like Starbucks franchises, maybe mall kiosks, things of that nature, or other ventures like, let's say, an Amazon FBA store, Shopify store, perhaps even an Etsy store. All of those investments have the possibility of at least doubling, including the rate of inflation, or more, really leaving you with a ton of options and much wealthier than when you first started. Something else that I should mention that has a great return is subscribing to quality YouTube channels like Finance Squared and turning on post notifications so you don't miss a video when they drop. Not to mention lovingly caressing that like button for the YouTube algorithm so that this video reaches out to a larger and larger audience. I'm currently in the process of putting together more videos on all things personal finance and how you can take action to exponentially increase your wealth with videos on topics like cryptocurrency, investing in stocks and other instruments, and much, much more. But in the meantime, remember that a goal without a plan is a wish. A goal with a plan and no action is simply a wish list. Take action on your wealth creation by avoiding buying a personal home to live in as an investment, but instead investing in homes to rent out, flip, or even skipping it all together, and investing your money into businesses, stocks, or even crypto. And just keep in mind, investing in a home to grow your family and your community, that's a great thing as well, but it's not necessarily a great investment for your personal finances. In any case, I'm out of here, guys. I'll catch you next time. Peace.